Hi everyone, my name is Shui. I am the CEO and co-founder of Skymind. So in this webinar, we have a few important guests joining us. Dato Eric Koo, the co-founder and executive director of iTrain Asia. So Dato, can you introduce a little bit about yourself?
Hi everyone. It's good to to share with you the topics today. So technically, I'm the co-founder for the iTrain Group. So we are a company which is founded in 2005. So it's about 15 years ago. So we are focused on the digital tech talent development. So at the moment, this is like we have a group of companies which is we provide digital technology training or digital skill trainings as young as 4 or 5 years old for kids, all the way up to youth, fresh graduates until professional. So our program now actually running in about 26 countries. So we own our own certification as SAM, and actually we run our program through about 30 plus of our authorized training partner in all these countries.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Dato. And the next, we have Hovey Chang, the founder and CEO of Forward School. So Hovey, can you introduce about yourself and also your company?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Skymind for inviting me to be on the show today. So basically, I am the CEO and founder of Forward School, and what we do is basically we provide a range of expert-led on-campus training, specifically in coding, data science, design, your digital marketing. And what separates us is basically we are powered by a faculty that are technology practitioners themselves, and we sort of offer cutting edge education in a conducive learning, living, and co-working space. So we have a environment, a campus, which is a row of 9 shop houses at the heart of Georgetown. And it is a co-living space. We have 17 studio apartments, both for startups as well as for the students themselves. And we are also a co-working space in which that companies will be stationed at our place, so that they are also looking forward to work very closely with the students. So that's, in a gist, what we do and what makes us different in a sense. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Hovey. And finally, Mark Kroll, the CEO of the CEO and co-founder of Superhand. So Mark, can you introduce yourself and so your company so that everyone can know about you?
Sure. Thanks so much for having us on the show. So yeah, my name is Mark. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Superhands. We're based out of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and what we do is data labeling for machine learning and artificial intelligence. So what that means is we basically help companies to accelerate the development and the, labeling of machine learning applications. Most of our clients are based across the world, while we maintain our hub of the main team based out in Kuala Lumpur. We have a network of people or workers who call themselves super agents. They're based across Southeast Asia, and we've got about 12,000 of them at the moment working on our technology stack. We help we basically label data for different companies using both a human and a machine system.
All right. So thank you, Mark. So the topic of discussion today will be the preparing our workforce for the new normal. And we know that half of the world has been under some form of lockdown to slow the spread of COVID-19. So the national conversation has begun to contemplate what life will look like and how the business is operated once it is safer to gradually return to pre-shutdown life. So our topic for today is to discuss how to begin to return to pre-shutdown, how to prepare our workforce for the new normal. So everyone who are watching this live webinar, please hold your question right to the end of the panel discussion, and we will select and go through the question and answer them one by one. So So our first discussion would be what is the right mindset we should have to prepare an agile workforce for the new normal. So over the years, as AI and other emerging technology boom, the subject of how this will affect our workforce has always been a subject of interest, be in terms of work disruption, how we learn, or how we communicate with each other. And so here, a short brief about Skymind. Skymind is a world first dedicated AI ecosystem builder, enabling companies and organizations to develop their own AI application and provide them with the tools to innovators in their industry. So personally, I anticipate that we will be working side by side with a gigs worker or both soon enough, but never did I expect for pandemic to push the timeline into the overdrive. So the COVID-19 has thrown the whole world into new normal. So instead of slowing, adapting, we are now being forced to judge the work, education, family errands, all while under the movement control order. So, but it's being so in order to push for staff to accept the new way of thinking, living, and working, and things like that. So now I have a question about like this kind of accelerated changes, adaptation we are going through. Is that sustainable enough for being a long run? So I think this one perhaps you can let Mark to talk about this and see what's your opinion.
Sure, yeah. So I don't think it's really a choice of whether it's sustainable to maintain this this mindset of adaptation, right? It's basically here already, and we already need to. We are sort of forced into a situation where we all need to be agile. We all need to work in a very different environment. We need to adapt really quickly. And I think it's forced digitization to many companies and many organizations. Those who are technology-driven organizations, as well as those who are not so, I guess, tech-driven. So from a super hands, point of view, once this whole, once the lockdown is lifted, we believe that there will be, we need to maintain somewhat of a work from home, distancing mindset where, we need to work, well, people will need to work in two locations. We might need to run shift work. And we'll see this continuing for the foreseeable future for sure. So I think it's very important that not just us, but every company has these plans already in place to prepare for the new normal, right? It's what everyone calls it. So I think the quicker, and what I believe is once the lockdown is lifted, we'll basically see lockdowns happen at different moments throughout the year, or even carry on until next year, right? You might have moments where you can go back to the office, and then moments where the numbers have spiked again, everyone needs to come back and work from home again. So I think having that plan in place very early on and being able to adapt to that changes, I think is crucial, right now. So yeah, that's generally how I would view it, and we're definitely implementing things like that already within Super Hands itself.
Okay, so just want to know what about Dr. Eric? What do you think about it?
Yeah, well, it depends on who is the person, which is like you're talking about SME or big corporations or even kids. So during this lockdown, actually, we have a lot of parents actually request us to actually run the kids training online. So the one is we run our coding class and the creative science classes online. This is for the kids. But then if let's say you talk about SME, what they need now is they need something which is the right tools. So we actually working with MBAC as well, is to roll out a list of webinar to actually give the SME, which is the right tools to use at this moment of time to actually get their business up and running. You see, there's those days when we talk about a lot of implementations of IT implementation, you talk about ERP and all these things, that one is very good. But now at the moment of the times, it's they want something which is very quick. So we actually introduce things like how to get your business online, which is a very simple way. It could be on Instagram, Facebook, or even on WhatsApp. So we have something on WhatsApp Commerce, which is to get those SME on online immediately. And then also teach them something basic about digital marketing. And if you talk about universities, school, and all these things, we have a series of programs which is get them ready to actually bring their class online. So far, we're working with MOE and Google for the last month plus. We managed to train about 1,005 teachers, right, from the school and the universities to get them online and teach them how to do engagement with their kids. Actually, sometimes for us, it's we are a technology training provider, but technology sometimes to a certain extent, it can help only up to a certain way. But we also need to teach them is like, how do you change your behavior or change your character in terms of like running the class online, and how do you engage with the students? Now, if you talk about the big corporation, of course, now many people ask us is like, can you run something online? How do you run a more effective workforce in terms of like go through work from home and then go through Zoom or go through all these like online conferencing software? And many of the organization in the first 2 weeks of lockdown is like, I think everyone is still waiting. But starting from now, moving to the phase 4, we actually see a lot of big corporations start to contact us, whereby they want us to actually start to run the trainings online, not only on e-learning, because e-learning is something that they can go and learn because it's all the recording one. But now actually we have quite many of requests, which is like ask us to do it online, even though our own certification program. So we are now lining up a lot of this program, not only in Malaysia, but we also do it in Thailand and other countries, that these people are now coming in. Is like, I think what the company want to do is that they want to motivate their staff, because it's like during this time, it's like they also still need to engage with learning, and then they need to prepare for like after the MCO or after post-COVID, what they need to do. And most of the courses that coming in now is like they focus on the data management and data analytics. We got a lot of requests on big data, and on and off, we do have some requests on AI. Of course, other than that, is like the biggest one that people request now is digital marketing.
See, do you think they can stay focused, like going through that online learning, things like that?
Yes, we actually tested it about a few weeks ago. We have adult, we have kids. So but of course you can't engage them for very long. We actually design a method which in such a way that like for kids is like we run like 2 hours per sessions. So depends on the parents. Is like we do have some parents is like they request 2 class per week, and some of them is like they request a weekly class, which is every week 2 hours. And for the adult, is like for our certification training, we design in such a way that we don't start so early, because we know that the parents are engaged with their kids for the online learning. They need to set up all these Google Hangout, all this stuff for them. And then we normally now our class is start about 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And then we will usually end about 11:30 before actually 12, so that they can prepare for their lunch and all these things. Then we only start back by 2. So we have to adjust a bit of the time, but so far, based on the numbers of clusters that we're running, it's okay. Because every day actually we do a eval. So in the past, when we do offline classes, like we have a day 1 eval and the last day eval. So day 1 eval is just to understand what the requirements from the audience, so the trainer can make the right adjustment. But now actually we do a daily eval just to make sure everything are intact. So what I would say is like so far so good.
I see. Okay. All right. Looks like it's good for you. So how about the whole week? Do you think like this kind of like accelerated change, is that sustainable to like enough for in the long run for you? Like how's your school? How's your whole school is operated currently?
Right. I think at one hand, obviously I'm not, sugarcoating it. I think the current situation does impact in one way or another how business is run, obviously, and to many businesses out there, especially for tourism and the rest, F&B especially, they are being very hard hit in a sense. And as well as for the traditional tertiary education sector, I understand that at this point in time, April, May supposed to be one of the highest intake for universities, whether is it public or private. But what we are seeing right now is it's at an all-time low, simply because I think parents are holding back their decision. And because we are talking about quite a big ticket kind of item in a sense for their children's education, and because we are currently under MCO, there's still, I mean, parents are still not too sure if, when is MCO is going to be really lifted and all that. And so if you were to survey, across board in terms of universities and private colleges, I can say that, they are at their all-time low in terms of intake, not because the students, doesn't want to study or they will not study anymore, but I guess in one way or another, things are being delayed, decisions are being pushed back in a sense. Because by and large, I think for parents, they still have a bit of, adapting to do. They are still questioning if, if I put down a deposit today, what if the MCO is going to be extended for how long? I'm not sure. So I would rather, hold back my decision, let the MCO pass, and then I will make a decision. I think that is the on the education sector level. I think that's what impacting. But obviously, for current existing students, we currently have a data science bootcamp running. It's a 17 weeks program. We started like maybe 3 weeks before the MCO, and I think those that are already currently enrolled to a certain extent, because they are young people in a sense, there's no issue for them to transition to online. And in fact, I think they are getting a bit more attention from the instructors. So on that front, I think they're transitioning well. And I think I'm commenting in light of, Forward School, as well as many others who already have, enrolled students in the sense. I think initially the first 1-2 weeks, like what Eric has mentioned, there's a bit of adjustment to do. But, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, moving on, I think we are seeing quite a positive response. People are adapting to it. And I think as a whole, it is a good thing because, it pushes everyone online. And as we know, being online, there are pros and cons, but I think the pro definitely outweigh the cons in the sense in which that, the speed at which that we can move is great. Yeah.
I see. How long it takes you to make a change like that?
I think it's a matter of, I think for the students, obviously, they don't want things to be delayed, right? They also want to get on with their learning as soon as possible. And for us, I think in terms of the time that we weigh, because we are already using a LMS, right? A learning management system. And most LMS outside, it's already equipped for going online in a sense. So basically, we just need to decide on, what's the best tool for us to be doing our video conferencing. And we ended up with a Zoom. And so I would say that within the 1-2 weeks, we decide and we go. And, a lot of the instructors, they are also using tools that they are very familiar with. We give that flexibility to the instructors. And I think we have no issue transitioning.
Okay, all right. So I think for this one, whether we like it or not, this is our new normal. So unfortunately for us, coronavirus is here to stay and until a proper vaccine is developed. So I personally don't foresee us like going back like how things were anytime soon, if ever again. So the next question will be, what are the expected challenges that management should anticipate in terms of preparing our current workforce for this new way of working or doing business? So I think let's start with Hovey again.
Right. I think from an SME, MNC standpoint or bigger companies, for startups, I think we are quite nimble in a sense, right? And we are quite internet savvy, we are quite technology savvy. And so for us as startups, it's quite agile, and there's no issue for us to now, all of our communications happen on Slack, for example, or WhatsApp for that matter. And we have Trello to sort of, manage our tasks and our progress. But I think commenting from an SME and MNC standpoint is, and I just gave a talk, a few days ago, I touched on the issue of leadership culture in this company. I don't think it is an issue about, what platform or what tech or the tools that we use. I think in terms of tools implementation, you can just hire a vendor to suggest to you what to use and set it up. I think that that can be done fairly fast. But I think what I've observed and what I wanted to highlight here is basically the leadership culture of existing companies. It doesn't matter what kind of tools you're using, but if your leadership culture it's not geared towards the fourth industrial revolution, I think you will be driving your workforce nuts in a sense lah. That day I was just browsing through my Facebook wall, right? And one of my good friend, Mohan from E27 posted a screenshot, about someone, a WhatsApp screenshot, a conversation of a WhatsApp screenshot, complaining that his boss is breathing down his throat. Every morning 8:30 he has to report in front of Zoom, and then half an hour later everyone needs to come back to Zoom to report whether they are there, and things like that. And I think in this new normal, that kind of culture might not necessarily fit. And I'm not advocating, free for all and there's no monitoring and things like that. I think to a certain extent that still needs to happen. But I think, in terms of leadership, a lot of companies, I foresee that there's some friction happening in a sense, especially for bigger companies in terms of, what's the best way to manage people that's working from home, right? And people increasingly, we will also see, in the freelancing and the gig economy, that is very prevalent, right? But increasingly so, how do we guide existing companies with the right policy to manage a remote workforce? So I think that is what needs to be looked into. As for me, in terms of tools and tech, that can be implemented fairly quickly.
I see. All right. So I'm just wondering about Dr. Eric Hu. So because you have a bigger organization and you have office in around different kind of countries. So what kind of challenges you face, and then for this one?
Well, actually, I think lately when we actually look at this social media, and most of the people actually start to say that they work more longer hour than they are in face-to-face. And there are certain statistics in the US, and they say that people are now working in average about 11 hours. Actually, sometimes to a certain extent, it's also true. It's sometimes the people ask me, today is what day? I need to pause a while. It's because we work through Saturday, Sunday, we don't even know what day is this now, because every day seems the same. So what the thing is because for us, if you talk about our own organization, let me put it two ways. What our customer organization and our organizations. Our organization is because we have been online and work anywhere. Because I don't tell my staff you work at home. I tell you that you work anywhere. So what anywhere means is I don't track you for in terms of time punch, which is we don't have you have to come in what time and then go back what time. About 5 years ago, we don't use that anymore. So everyone is based on KPI, and all our data, everything's the works is online. So since the MCO started, right? Actually, the last day of the MCO, we actually not transferring data. No, I mean the last day before the MCO, we never do transfer of data. We just get every staff together, and then those which is remote, we just do it online in such a way that tell them what is going on, and then we just have to prepare ourselves, and then the things that we actually do. Reportings and all these things is just have to take note of what thing, and in terms of how to deal with customer. But internally, it's we actually get used to it because all of us is work remotely since a long time ago. But when we talk about our customers' point of view, is the biggest issue, other than what the Hobby mentions, right? The biggest issue that what our customer highlight to us is performance management. You see, the things is not many organizations that have a proper performance management systems. So whereby now your staff is work remotely, so it's how do you coordinate their performance? So this is one of the things, the biggest issue they're facing. They even ask is in terms of SME or those mid-range company, they're actually asking around is there any performance management tools they can use? Right, then I talked to some of my friends, which is selling performance management system. And lately they have a lot of requests. People want to see like, how do you manage performance when your staff is spreading around? So this is the things. And another one is like motivations. How do you keep all these your staff motivate? Of course, it's like when we started, like for our organization, it's like we used to do online meetings, but now because of this, it's like we actually do a daily online, which is morning one sessions, before at the end of the day another sessions. So the first 2 weeks actually we've been doing it every day except Saturday and Sunday, just to keep the staff motivated and keep them. Most important thing is to keep them informed, like what is going on and all these things. And then after the first 2 weeks, we actually start to slow down, whereby we only do like once per day. And now only we do twice per week, right? So because we have to get our staff used to it. And then once they know how to do all these things, right, then it's okay. But for us, because like we are used to it, but for our customer organization, to be very honest, many of them, they're not doing that. So some of the staff that might feel lost, they don't know where is it. For example, I can give you one simple example. We have one customer that they want to run online trainings. So to us, every time we run online training, because we have experience, we always do a questionnaire or a speed test, right, for their equipment test and all these things. So this organization, they think it's like, oh, it shouldn't be an issue, like, because it's like my staff is all should be in KL. I'm like, okay, let's do a test. And do you know what we did discover? Half of their staff actually balik kampung. So, which means it's like once we do the thing, it's like we have the people which is like the bandwidth only like upload and download only like less than 5 meg, right? So these are the things that are challenging. The challenges that we will be facing is that if you want to run like online trainings, or you want to run like online working mode, right? If you have a very poor internet connections, right, then you will have an issue. And we know that in Malaysia, other than the big cities, many of the sub cities is like they are still using so-called streamix, or they call it unified light, or whatever they call it. So we are now facing this issue. Actually, many articles are talking about this bandwidth issue. If you want to do full work from home, and then we want to do like all these things as usual, which is like you work online, offline, it's still the same. Your bandwidth is another considerations. So far at city, we don't face all these things. But when we run training, especially for teacher also on the remote area, this is something that we are facing. So I think our government is looking into that as well.
All right. So I think there's some challenges for like if you want to adopting something new technology for like during MCO. So I think what we're going to discuss next is about the technology adoptions. So a lot of companies and businesses are irreversible and negatively affected by MCO. But there's also a large number of companies who have managed to find a way to use technology to their advantage. Example, courier, food delivery, restaurant, e-commerce, in fintech, and so on. So moving forwards, more business will look more seriously into the technology adoption. For example, in agriculture, education, healthcare, surveillance, customer services. So in the case of manufacturing, if everything is automated, then we wouldn't need to close down the factories in the case of a pandemic, or we would mitigate the risk of limited resources supplies. So here comes the question is that, what would that mean for the current workforce in terms of job disruptions? So so I'd like to ask Mark, do you have any thought about that?
So the way we look, because the way what we do as a business is we're helping advance artificial intelligence, or AI. And the biggest fear that I think a lot of people have, and the big fear that the media pushes out, is that AIs, or artificial intelligence, is going to take over your job, right? It's going to put you out of work. And I think it's to a certain extent, yes, it's true, but I think to the most part, it's a lot of misconception, because the way we look at it is AI is here to enhance the way you work. It's here to speed up and make things a lot more efficient. And you as a person or a human will still need to be in that loop to enable AI to be implemented within an organization. You will still need someone to control and to train and to build and to improve these different models. So you mentioned manufacturing, right? And if you're saying that in the future, years from now, if there's another pandemic and we could shut down, how do you minimize a shutdown of a factory? You know, perhaps you could have yeah, robotics running everything, but then you still might need humans who could remote control work within that environment. So they don't have to be physically in a factory space. Maybe they could be working remotely from any location around the world, controlling what's going on within the factory itself. So there are still job opportunities for people, but that actually means that people will need to upskill themselves. They will need to improve themselves or adapt to what the new normal is going to be. You know, for us, so yeah, I think that's something that we always need to remember, that you know, AI is not here to take away our jobs, but it's here to enhance it. So within Super Hands itself, you know, we provide a lot of work opportunity for people who work across the world from home. So they do a lot of labeling work on our solution. Super Hands was built with remote working in mind and a distributed workforce. So we never wanted to have people physically in an office space. You know, how you go, I mean, if you go to a traditional outsourcing center or BPO center, you have people sitting in a desk, you know, doing the work. What we wanted to was to distribute all the work across the region. So we built tech to allow us to do that. And I think with, you know, by doing that, it creates opportunities for people to find more work, right? So by training models, you are creating jobs at the same time, because models, AI is not just lines of code, it's lines of code plus human insights. And you need a lot of people to create those insights and develop these models. And as time goes on, more and more models will be created. And yes, it will minimize certain jobs in the market space, but that's where I think upskilling happens, because that's where new opportunities or new jobs might be created. For example, with drone technology, never before would you have thought that that would create a whole new fleet of jobs to become drone pilots. In the day, that never existed, but because of AI, it's created a whole new opportunity, a whole new job market in that space. So I think rather than people being afraid of technology coming over and, you know, taking jobs, it's actually here to enhance and to speed up work itself.
All right. So that's very cool. So I have a question for you. Is that so? Like your company, you have facing some of the, like example, some worker or staff or employees have problem with the internet, and so we have problem with the so-called technology adoption, and you have hard time to use that. So do you ever think about like some of these kind of their job can be replaced by AI, and how you gonna like tell this stuff like about the job destruction on them?
You see, the thing is like, if you ask my personal view, right? So I think any job which is repeatable, which is can be replaced by AI, no matter how, or it's just a matter of time. You see, we have been doing deep learning training for the last 3 years together with NVIDIA in the regions, in the Southeast Asia regions. When I gave I mean, I go to each of different country to see the customer, as well as to give a talk to all these conference. So actually, this one is it depends on like how you actually do your works. If let's say like certain jobs, right? It depends like if you. I always tell this to my staff as well. It's like if you, let's say for example, if you do a digital marketing, you are a digital marketing specialist. Every day you just like do the same thing, which is like you just post the ads and then just set the budget and all these things. I can tell you by now it can be replaced by AI. There are a few organizations which is now doing AI for digital marketing, and then they can tweak in every few seconds. Even human being cannot tweak that with the keywords and a budget and all these things. So the thing is like, if you are a digital marketing specialist, is like you actually look into this analytics data, right? What is the customer behavior? And then you go and change the ads, change the message, and change the way how you do the A/B test and all these things. Then maybe AI cannot replace you, right? So it's the matter of like how you work, because many works which is like repeatable is like, even though like in accounting we know that like it's like every day you do the same thing, but it depends on like certain things which is the AI cannot do. Is like how can you do a little bit of creative with your accounting in terms of like, how do you save a tax, right? How do you save certain things which is to move around without against the law, right? So the other thing also is like, we always talking about like, what are the main job that will be replaced by AI. So I always joke to say that like one of them is auditor, because the auditor every day do the same job. What, you're just checking only all these things only, right? Because like auditor cannot be creative, right? So then you got no choice. And the other one I always joke also is the pilot, because the pilot is the only job is that you cannot be creative. Anything happen is that you just have to refer back to the operation manual, right? So in fact, now there's a lot of aeroplane, especially Airbus, is like it's a full autopilot for landing and takeoff. If like people can trust, is that technically they don't need people to be there, right? I got my neighbor is a pilot as well. So they say all the pilot actually they don't like sorry to say that the Airbus, because it's like it's fully automated, because it's like they just like take off, landed the whole journey, technically they're just sitting there and then just see the plane fly itself. So, but many of the jobs now, right? Let's say don't talk about like pilots, right? You can be putting it a little bit of a creativity, whereby this is something that the AI cannot do, right? So of course, the American report also say that like the job that replaced by AI compared to the job that they created by because of AI, right? The one which is like created by AI is actually more. So now there are so many people are asking us, actually, other than providing trainings, right? We actually do a lot of trainings for the university students and the fresh graduates. And then many actually people, organization actually asking us is like to provide this fresh grad to them, which is we have been doing for the last 10 years. So we have a company in Japan, in Korea, which is asking us is like for these AI specialists and the machine learning specialists and the data scientists. So these are the things which is the people can see is like things is coming in. So I asked them why you want to do all these things, especially my customer in Japan is like they are actually providing all these AI solutions to Toyota and Honda. So they can see manufacturers are moving to this AI, and then since they provide the AI solutions for them, they need a lot of these talents. So I can see now actually there are a lot of requests of this talent, but it's just a chicken and egg issue. If you train the people now, they don't have jobs, that means they will have an issue. Like those days, I think we witnessed in Malaysia, which is the biotech. We train a lot of biotech graduates. By the end of days, the industry cannot actually absorb them. So we need to be balanced. It's like in terms of both. It's like in terms like the training need to be there, and then the job need to be there as well. But of course, again, we don't do things which is restrict to one country. That's why we actually involved in so many countries in the region is because it's like talent can be moving around, right? So I myself also involved in the research of the ILO, which is the International Labour Organization, which is under United Nations. We actually studies the movement of all the tech talent within the region for the last 10, 20 years. So I can see if we actually can have a borderless kind of talents or employment situations, I think Southeast Asia itself, or even plus some of the country in Asia, we can do it very, very well. But if let's say we become very silo and each country taking care by themselves, that one will be a bit difficult, because if you can train people that got no job, is no point. And if you have a job, you don't have to train people, you got no point as well. So I think we have to collaborate together as a regions.
All right. So thank you, Dr. Eric. Cool. So talking about the technology adoption, and if this is to be our new normal, does the current workforce need to be trained, equipped with the new skill set in order to survive a prolonged period of work from home or being at risk of being replaced by the machines? So talking about the workforce training. So Mr. Hui, what is your opinion on that?
I, I I think obviously, now more than ever, obviously because of the pandemic, and a lot of the industries are impacted. Um, People are more aware that technology is important, and I think previously, people has always been consumers. They are just consumers of technology. And I think what this kind of really highlights to us is that it's very important for us to be creators of technologies as well, of these new technologies. And I guess, upskilling in a sense, whether is it coding or future skills, it's more important than ever. And but at the same time, that's what we know. And I think increasingly more and more people are, upskilling themselves in tech. They're trying to learn, how to code. They're trying to learn all the tools that they need to be much more efficient, to increase their productivity. And there are, hundreds of platforms out there, whether is it for remote work or whether is it for, the gig economy. A lot of today's businesses and economy are driven by tech platforms. But what we sort of, realize, I've been a hiring manager myself. I hire people. I've also been working under people before. I think one of the things that can't be sort of replaced is communications, right? Is not just digital competencies, but also your human skills. And I think at Forward School, this is something that we want to take note of. This is something that we are very interested to impart in our students, because as we know, the 21st century students, they really must learn how to approach problems from many perspectives. More so now that things are increasingly being automated, they need to cultivate and exploit their own creativity in solving certain issues, because in the end of the day, decisions still needs to be made. And of course, some of it can be automated, but by and large, decisions still needs to be made. And you still need to engage in complex communications with your colleagues, and you still need to leverage on critical thinking for that matter. So with a future of work, that's constantly sort of evolving, these non-automatable human skills, in a sense, becomes very foundational. And it will only increase in value. That's what we believe, as automation becomes more mainstream, right? So this is what we believe in the sense that we are also, I think that's a very it's extremely important for us to have a focus in human skills, rather than just digital competencies. I think that's my take on it. Yeah.
I see. So, Mark, so I think you have the most like remote, like super hand worker. So how you do the like this kind of training, and how you going to like make them learn how to use your tools and how to manage them?
Yeah, I guess to echo what Howie said as well, I totally agree that communication is the key skill here. And this is something that we've been working on internally within the office or within the guys at Super Hands. It's how do you communicate effectively? And being remote has forced us, or forced everybody, to over communicate, and you can never ever over communicate. I think it's something that we always need to remind ourselves, because how do you get the message across effectively across to hundreds of people? I think is very difficult, and ensuring that everyone actually understands and gets what you're trying to say is very, very difficult. So I think communication skills are a big thing. You mentioned critical thinking, design thinking. I think it's also so important to have as an individual. And yeah, how you solve certain problems, right? Problem solving skills. I think that's way more important than actual skills. So you mentioned as well, Howie, just now, that skills of, okay, data science skills or coding skills, these things can be learned, right? It's all down to attitude. It's all down to how do you sort of pick that up quickly, and how then do you communicate that you're able to do these things well. So I think if people are looking for, job opportunities in the future, it's what skills are only a very small portion of it. It's it's an individual cell that you want to create your own, I guess, that personal brand of how well you can work within a team environment. And the team environment of the future is so different to what the team environment of the past is. People are so used to the face-to-face, communication, that now everything has to be done virtually. For us, and you asked just now that question regarding how do we train people at scale. So we've got two teams, the core team who work within the office environment, who do a lot of the critical thinking, who do a lot of the building of the products and the tools, and who work directly with the clients. And on the other hand, we've got our super agents. The super agents are basically the guys who help us to do a lot of the labeling work. And it's not just training one or 1 to 10 people. So when we build technology or build products, we need to think of how do we train 1 to 1,000 people at the same time to make sure that these guys do, I guess, the same thing, achieving very high accuracy. The only way to do that is to productize training. And what we did was we built something called Super Tutorial that allows us to tutor or to train people on board our super agents on particular projects so that they could actually execute these things at very high accuracy levels. And we build tools to allow us to quality control as well. So if you think about it, we've got tools checking multiple people's work at the same time so that you do not have roadblocks of a certain project manager checking 100 people's work individually. That is not sustainable. So we had to use tech to allow us to enhance that. We use AI to enhance and to speed up the way we tutor and the way we collect, the way we train and the way we quality control the super agents. So yeah, that's generally how we run the 2 teams and how we train the 4 teams. It's done very differently because the core job, the core function of the 2 teams, the core team as well as the super agent team, is quite different.
I just want to add, is like, it depends on who is asking the just another question. If let's say it's the individuals, right? I think now, because we have been running this digital tech training for the last 15 years, so we have many customers come to us, it's like, they always ask the same question. It's like, how do you make my engineer more rounded, right? Because the digital tech technology training is all quite standard. Actually, we do a bit of research, and if like, for the audience of benefit, if you want to know how this thing works, it's like, lately the people are talking about something called a T-shaped person. It's a T-shaped person. You can do a Google search on this. It's something that we actually propose to a lot of our big customer now. Is like, when we engage our customer, we mostly train like people like they have like 10 to 20, 30,000 of employee. So to do that, it's not like just roll out the training and so simple. We need to help them to develop the digital tech talent development framework. And that one we actually based on the T-shaped person's approach, whereby why we call it T, because it's like, if you are an AI specialist, you focus on your AI, you learn about deep learnings and the tools and all these things, then that one is your depth, right? But you need to have something called a base knowledge or the skills. And this is what the COVID and what Mark talking about is like, you need to have those communication skill. You don't have those interpersonal skill, of course, and then also project management skill. So this is the things which is we need to embed it into our training now, because or else it's like, at the end of the day, like, you have a lot of engineers, right, doing the works, and then if they are doing the works very good, at the end of the day, they will be promoted to become managers. And because the engineers, they are not people management kind of persons, and then at the end of days, we actually have a lot of customer have this experience. It's like the whole team, which is dissolved, right? Because it's like the engineer don't know how to manage the people. So this is also one of the things. One of the issues is like, why staff resign from the organization, because their boss is not the people managers. So if for any individual who are asking, is like, what kind of skill they need to develop for the future, you can actually search around this T-shape, which is what we call the T-shaped person. And then you will know it's like how to equip yourself for the future.
All right. So not to raise any alarm bells, but it's best to plan for a worst case scenario, as COVID-19 is here to stay until a vaccine can be developed. So actually in my personal opinion, so employees need to look into the transforming talents model and digitalization talents value change. So as more companies looks into automation and the work from home become the norm, so the talents employees sought after will be different, and HR will need to be able to prepare for a new way of working, hiring, and training. So I'm thinking like companies will need to create an ecosystem devoted to creating an AI power skill inventory for talent reskilling, and perhaps to explore partnership with edtech startups. So just give an example. Skymind itself has been expanding its talent development upskilling efforts to make sure more Malaysians are AI ready, which is needed now more than ever. Not just for the current workforce, but for emerging workforce as well. So can you imagine like what kind of workforce environment awaits our soon-to-be graduates? So like we at Skymind, we have been offering the AI training courses and been aggressively hiring AI engineers in South Asia regions. So that's a great talent potential here, and we want to help make sure our Malaysian talents are prepared to meet the talent's demands. So in line with this, we have been working closely with university to embed our content into existing curriculums. So this is to lessen the current talent gap and to better equip our emerging workforce to meet industry demands. So also moving forwards, we plan to initiate more efforts to cater to the entire talent spectrum end to end. So talking about the worker well-being, while job disruption, automation is a concern, employers should also make worker well-being a priority. So worker well-being is a concern during the prolonged stay-at-home order that comes with the stress of managing work-life integrations, family, and the ever-constant worry and anxiety about the coronavirus. So right now, a lot of people are facing mental stress, emotional stress, financial stress, and all because of the coronavirus and MCO. So there are a lot of uncertainties around us as employers. We want to make sure that our people are able to cope with the sudden changes we trust into. So my question here is like the discussion we're going to discuss is, so what can employers do to make sure staff are coping as best as possible? So I think we start with Eric, Eric Koo, Dr. Eric Koo.
Yeah. It's actually in time also, we lately also got a lot of this kind of requests from our customer, because we normally do big organizations. So this is something that we actually will be rolling out soon. I'm not sure you heard about virtual meditations, right? We have been talking to a few of our coaches. This is something which is not new in the tech world. If you actually check around, it's like Google are one of the first one who do it. I'm not sure you heard about something called mindfulness, which is done by Google for many, many years, right? So this is the way which is actually to help their staff, right, to actually search inside themselves, to understand themselves. And in a way also it is actually help them to relieve the stress and also build trust among their colleagues. So it doesn't matter you do it face-to-face or you do it virtually, it proven it works, right? So this is the things which is like, I think now this point of time, I think to a certain extent the psychology need to come into the picture, right? Because it's like we are still, no matter what you do face-to-face or do online or virtually, you still deal with human beings, and human beings all come with a different background. And to be very honest, human mind is very fragile, right? Especially nowadays, it's like we can see a lot of, when we do the teacher trainings, we see a lot of feedback and a lot of stress from the teachers. Because imagine it's like they need to run the online trainings, right? They need to take care of their kids as well. And then they also have to take care of the household. And then there are so many things to do. So there are very differences, like they actually run the class in the school itself. So we are now actually also try to roll out this program, whether we can actually do it free for all the teachers to just to understand themselves, is like to release the stress. And for corporate level, it's like we also line up a list of programs for those organizations that approach us. They are actually now realized that after weeks by weeks, the feedbacks and the work performance of the employee is start to reduce. Earlier on, this is like seems okay. Not because of the salary issue or not because of any other issue, but of course, some of the organizations, they have a salary cut, which is like quite common now. So, but it's more on like people are not prepared to work in this kind of environments, right? So this is the new program that we roll out. But for those people who are listening, you just search about these Google mindfulness trainings. We will understand what I'm talking about. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Hui, how you think about this one? How you like to treat your staff and how you treat your company colleagues and things like that? You are on the mute.
So again, I can't emphasize enough that I think times like this would require some level of leadership, and part of that is definitely communicating transparently and with clarity. And I'm commenting not from a place that I've arrived and I've done it all, but I think it is something that as for myself as a leader, is something that I strive for, in terms of providing that transparency to the staff. And I think we are also seeing a lot of reports nowadays about employees being disgruntled because their companies just fire them without giving proper explanation. And I think to a certain extent, a lot of companies are also taking the opportunity to cut. But I think a lot of times these are being done without proper explanation, and without proper runway in terms of communication. And so for us, I think for myself, I will try my very best to communicate transparently, and this includes potentially what's the runway that we have for the company, what is important for us to do at this point in time, what is needful for us to be doing. And I guess in my team, a lot of them are millennials, and I think for them it's extremely important for them to know the why, rather than of the what that we are doing. And so I try to spend as much time as possible explaining that. And I think one of the things is also for us is we are a firm believer that before we cut anyone's salary, I guess the leadership needs to show that, right? And to me, these are pretty basic leadership. And I guess increasingly, even more so at this point in time, leaders will definitely need to step up, and manage the situation, right? Realistically, as well as do what is needful. So that's my take in terms of managing staff, and expectations. And I think if everyone were to be on the same page and the communications within the company is strong, I don't believe that people won't rally together. I think that's a very powerful thing. And I think for us, the motivation is more than before. I would say that the team, in terms of motivation wise, momentum wise, I think we are gaining rather than losing. But obviously, there are challenges. Obviously, as we gain steam and as we gain momentum, how do we then maintain it, right? Getting the momentum up is one thing, but maintaining it's another. And for us, because we are still a believer that education and teaching and transferring of knowledge is still best done in a blended way, meaning offline and online. We don't foresee all of our courses to be doing 100% online. But so that's a challenge, and we look forward to meeting our students face to face again. And we are pretty convinced that we will win the COVID war if globally, regionally, we come together. Yeah.
All right. So because it's very interesting session today, but due to the interest time, so let's see if we can have just one question from public, and let me see the question. So there's one question from the public, probably all of you can answer like in very short, is that what kind of skill training should we focus on in this new normal? So let's start with Mark.
I think I mentioned this just now already. It's definitely life skills. So people skills, how you communicate, how you speak, how you hold yourself, how you problem solve. So the way, when we do a lot of interviews at Superhands, it's about solving problems, not about how good your coding skills are, right? That's only one part of it, but it's how you think and how quick you are to pick something new up, because the world is changing so fast. And if you do not have the adaptability to move as quick as the market moves, you will be left behind. So what we don't want is for people to be left behind. So we need to make sure that as the organization moves, everyone moves along with it.
Right. How about you, Hobie? What do you think about what's things we need to learn?
Yeah, I guess same, right? I think the skills is there for you to learn. I mean, I'm talking about digital competencies, back to that again. And you cannot afford to stand by the sideline again, as just a consumer. You obviously need to know how things work, and you need to be hands-on, and that's what we have always been, believing in. And the future of work will be, employers will definitely, I mean, this is what we believe, that employers will value skills, more than just mere paper qualification. I think paper qualification wise, you can get it. It will give you a competitive edge, but for like programmers, I look for your GitHub account, right? More than which school or how many A's you get for that matter, because your GitHub account will show me, whether are you involved in any open source projects, how much are you contributing, what language are you writing in. That's basically your work there, right? I don't need to look at your paper for that matter. And again, like what Mark and myself has also shared a lot is not just digital competencies, but really, your human skills, your skills. Are you able to communicate well, in a rather increasingly volatile, unstable, complex world that we are in right now?
Okay, thank you, Hobie. So Dato Eric, so what kind of skill training should we focus on for this new normal? What do you think about that? Just a short one.
It depends on you are the boss or the employee. If let's say you are a boss, right? Because I involved in the chamber, we are all talking about is like now all the bosses have to get their hand dirty about digital. In those days, the bosses is just assign all this stuff to do all the sales and marketing and operations, all using digital themselves. But I think now the bosses is like you need to get your hand dirty, which is like you need to understand how the digital things works, right? Especially on sales and marketing. I think operations like project management, I think most bosses will know, right? Those days is like because you need to manage your stuff. But the sales and marketing is like a lot of times it's like it's assigned to the sales and the marketing person. I think nowadays it's like all the bosses is like, because once you know how these sales and marketing tools or the digital marketing tools, you will think of the ways is like how to make your business work again, right? This is one thing. And if you are the employee, I will go back to the T-shape, right? The T-shape persons, right? You need to make sure that you have something good, something that you can deliver value to your future or current employer. But of course, if you talk about the skill or the topics that you need to pick up, of course, AI is one of the things, right? But if you, let's say you're a programmer, especially to a lot of developers outside there, because we trained a developer for the last 15 years for Android and iOS, right? In those days, the market are not enough, but now because a lot of companies have shrink down, there will be, I expect there will be surplus of web developer and mobile developer. So what you need to do is like, we are also pushing out a programs, which is a blockchain developer. So if now you pick up a blockchain skill, right, or to become a blockchain developer, I think you have a huge opportunity for jobs, because there are still a lot of a need for these kind of things, especially on the security standpoint, because the blockchain have its own advantage. And globally, we have a very, very less blockchain developer. So if you are a programmer, please pick up this skill. But of course, still for all the employees, please look into the T-shaped persons. Then you will know, understand it's like what us as an employer looking for.
All right, thank you. So we have one last question from the audience is, with these uncertain times, would the young generation prioritize job security and move away from freelancing or gigs? So I probably just let Dr. Eric Koo to just answer this one.
Well,
It's a very last one.
You see, the thing is like when sometimes ago during the outbreaks in the state, right? Google and Microsoft, they start to announce is like they still want to take care of their freelance or the part-time worker. And I can't remember which one of them. They got like 100,000 of them in the gig economy. So I'm actually surprised is that doing our own discussion within our chamber group here or some business owner, we always thought like gig economy is something that the young people want. But the thing is now what happened in US is like there are no securities, right, for these gig economies. Imagine this is like if you no jobs to do, then it is like who want to take care of you? Number one, your employers cannot take care of you because you're not doing work for them. And number two, the government cannot track you because you don't have a proper employment. Especially now in Malaysia, we actually have all these helps, right? It's actually rolled out by KWSP and SOSO and LHDN. So if you are the gig persons, right, you're doing all the freelance work and you never report yourself for the tax and everything, you never pay KWSP, I have to say that I'm sorry, I don't know who can help you because the country cannot track you. So this is the issue facing by a lot of governments now, even Malaysian governments, like how to track that. Now, if you ask me, it's like, do you still want to become a gig in the future? Right, I think in the future it's still the same, which is like people are looking for a job rather than a career, because this is the young millennials mindsets, right? Because they have a so-called YOLO culture, you only live once, right? They don't want to 9 to 5, they want to have freedoms and all these things. But it's just that this kind of model, the government have to set rules for that, right? Whereby if you involve in freelancing or you become a gig, it's like, how do you be still trackable by the government? And then your security job, I mean, I would say it's like your job and work security is still there. So I think that one, it needs some a policy change, right? I think US also noticed that now.
Okay, thank you. So that's one question from the audience specifically want to ask Mark, is that adoption is one of the biggest challenges in adapting to the new normal. How do we get employees across generation up to speed, especially having to trust employees in remote working environment?
So in terms of how do we trust employers in a remote working environment?
Yes, right.
Yeah, so I think trust happens both ways, for sure, right? When so as an employer, we need to trust people, and I think for them as well, they need to trust us as an organization. So I think what was mentioned just now was a lot of transparency in terms of communicating, what we expect out of our employees and vice versa. So I think it's a lot of give and take. So that's, yeah, for sure. I think it's to do with trust and how do you build that trust, and that's very, very difficult. The only way to do it in my mind is, you can't use tools to track it. You don't want to do that, right? Because you're not going to clock people's time in anymore. It's all about, and how do you make sure as an employer, you're looking after the well-being of an individual, and they will know when you are looking after your people, and they will know when you're lying. So I think the most important thing is just to be so transparent in terms of the way you're thinking and not try to manipulate I guess what you're trying to get out of it. Yeah, so as an organization, we've got to make sure we're doing the right thing at all times, in the best interest of the team, because the people that we have are the ones who drive the organization. We are nothing without the team.
Thank you so much, Mark. So this one is like running over the time. So I think there's still a lot of questions from the audience, but I need to close it, unfortunately. So if any question you might have, then just put on the comment and we will send to all our guest speaker. Then probably they can get back to you at the comment. So to do the closing, we humans are resilient. This is not our first time to face a healthcare or economic crisis, and it will not be the last. We have always found a new way to get through, and we will preserve, and we have the resources available to help us. So we in Skymind aim to anchor talents in AI to create social and economic impacts. grow the local human resources pool and build an AI ecosystem. So for those who like to understand and know more about Skymind, you can visit our website, skymind.global, or our Facebook page, facebook.com/skymindglobal, or you can contact us through our talent program email, which is talent@skymind.my, to learn more about the talent development program we have in Malaysia. So the program is in place right now, are designed to provide real life skill sets that are in demand in the AI industry, as well as introduce them to deep learning Forze and our suite of tools. So thanks again for everyone who stayed to the end with us. I hope you find this webinar useful. And thanks again to Dr. Eric Koo, Hovey Chang, and Mark Hall to spend the time with us today. And thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. All the best.
Thanks.
Stay safe.